Ready for a networking tip that goes against everything you've heard? This is going to save you massive time and frustration. Stop asking people for business. The truth is, asking directly just doesn't work. It feels desperate, and frankly, it gets you ignored every single time. Instead of chasing, use the lead first maneuver to flip the script. This strategy changes the whole dynamic of your interaction. When you meet a potential partner, resist the urge to talk about yourself. Instead, ask them, who is your ideal client? Who is the perfect customer for you? Then, go find that person for them. Seriously, take the action to help them first. This small action is a huge psychological move. You create a psychological debt that they feel compelled to repay by sending business your way. This is how you stop chasing and get into an infinite referral loop. Share this tip with your network right now and stop feeling desperate. Check my profile to see how I built a 7-figure network using this one single rule.
And let's get to this webinar starting now.
You know why telephone prospecting is, to me, the best form of prospecting, or the best thing that you can do in your business? Not just prospecting, the best thing you can do is because, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but if it applies to you, here it comes. The reason why this is the most important is because it's the number one thing you don't want to do.
Yep.
Let me explain.
100%. I don't even have to explain.
When you do the things that you don't want to do, that's where growth happens. When you think about our business, 90% of real estate is communication. When you go on a listing appointment, how do you get hired is through your speaking. When you're sitting across from the buyer and you're trying to now, with our new way of doing real estate, explain to them how important it is that they hire you and sign a buyer agent agreement, you do that through communication. When you write an offer and you're going to present that offer, you do that through communication. When you're putting out fires, you do it through communication. When you have buyer remorse, you handle the buyer remorse through communication. When a seller doesn't want to hear the pricing or adjustments because the market has changed, you've got to convince that homeowner through what? Communication. So 90% of our business is communication. So how do we improve our communication? I'm a firm believer that telephone helps us do that. Here's why. See, you've heard this expression that when somebody loses one of their 5 senses, like let's say they lose their eyesight, what happens to the other 4 senses? They become accentuated. They become more sensitive to compensate for that loss. Well, when you're on a listing appointment, you have all the 5 senses at work. You have your smell, the odor that you're giving out. So hopefully you smell pretty. You have your looks, the visuals in your listing appointment book, how you explain. Auditory, your words. Okay, now, you're on the telephone. A couple of those senses are now gone. They don't see your prettiness. They don't feel your charisma. They don't smell your smell, which could be good or bad. So all you're left with is this one sense. So you've got to compensate for the other 4 that's not there, which trains you. It helps you get better at communication, which is 90% of your job. This is why I love the telephone so much, not because it's better time management, not because the money that you can make from getting listing appointments, but simply because of the emotional breakthrough you will have by overcoming the fear that you hate telephone prospecting and mastering communication. If you call for 1 hour, do you think, can I get a yes or no? 1 hour a day, do you think you might be able to generate 1 appointment in 1 hour? Can anybody tell me yes or no? Yes or no? Can you generate 1 appointment if you sat in the phone and you're not distracted and you do 1 hour of prospecting in 1 appointment? Probably yes. I'll tell you something. Studies show if you just called Fizbo's and barked, woof, woof, eventually somebody's going to say, oh, you must be a realtor. Come on over. Think about it. If you were belly to belly, face to face with a homeowner and you said, you talked to him about selling the house, How many listings would you get out of 20 listing appointments? Now, in my chart, I'll go back to, I said 4. Some of you will be 10, 15, 1. There's nobody on this call that should be struggling financially, period. I'm deadly serious and angry about this. Some of you, you have to work. You got to do the things that you don't want to do. This
Want to
business
listen to fall
there.
out of the sky
Right.
into your lap.
You know what? I'm going to do an analogy here. I think I said this on the Monday coaching call, Power Agents. So forgive me if I'm saying it again. I think it was part of the motivational moment about, yes, it was. I said, we talk into the future. See, for people that didn't hear this analogy, I'm going to do it again. When you are on the Disney ride, the splash thing or whatever, or the dinosaur thing, and at the end of that ride, you put your hands up and then they take a picture. That picture exists already in the future, because the moment that picture is taken, it's already there for you at the checkout, right? But you have not caught up to that future. In other words, it's not showing up for you yet because it's out there in the future. Moments, but it's still in the future. So that picture already exists. You just got to go get it. We have, I don't know how many hundreds of people we have on the call, but I know there's hundreds more that could have been on the call. Do you know where they are? They're in bed still. I don't know. They're at the deli getting a donut or Danish or something, and they're going to sit in their car and look at their I don't know what they're doing. My point is, this is the time of year where agents, they start going on mental vacations. This means for you is when you got to work harder. Okay. Now, I still want you to have balance in your life. You got to still have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You have to have a wonderful Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever other holidays you practice. But separate from that, this is the time to take market share away from other agents. Okay. So, well, listen, I'm not really the bartender. I own this joint, but my wife and I were retiring. She's from Long Island, by the way. It's relevant because he says we're retiring to Florida, because half of Florida comes from Long Island, New York. Without Long Island, Florida would still be swampland. Anyway,
Time to hang a little bit.
So he says I'm moving. We're retiring to Florida, and this is my restaurant.